Hello, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I am very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a real estate and family law firm out in the Worcester area. She and her team are fantastic at what they do, and we're very fortunate to have her with us almost every single week discussing issues that have to do with these two topics. And today we're going to talk about modifications. And as I understand it, Nicole, this is when you think you have everything set in stone and then somebody tries to change it. Is that right?
Essentially, yes. It's limited to certain areas, but yeah, it's basically modifying a judgment. That's exactly what a modification is modifying a previous court order.
It's so frustrating because a lot of those court orders, they take years to get done and finished and signed. And then lo and behold, they can modify it. Is there any time period where people have that look, we're going to sign this. You're not allowed to try to modify this for X amount of time.
I wish I could say that there is. Unfortunately, it depends on the circumstances. I mean, God forbid, you get divorced and the next week you get diagnosed with cancer and you can't go back to work. I'm not saying that they knew about that. So obviously that's something that's going to have an impact immediately. So there are life-changing events that really do happen that quickly. The reality is most of the things don't happen that quickly. So absent some kind of an emergency, or hey, better yet, they won the $1 million or the $1 billion. Great. Short of something like that, you're going to have to look at a period of time. Now, what is that period of time? Probably on average is about 2 years. It can be less, it can be more. But usually that's when we come back and see people is after 2 years. Things have really changed. Children have gotten older. Their schedules have changed. Their activities have changed. So something of that nature usually is something that triggers it.
Yeah, it definitely life changes, and there are things that have to happen. I mean, I get it. Now, if somebody does need a change, um, I mean, are those the only reasons typically? Is it just child support or maybe somebody needs to live in the residence longer for some reason before they sell it? I mean, I'm not sure. I know you see this every day.
So it's going to have to be something pertaining to a modifiable issue. So we're going to have to look at that judgment of divorce, and it's going to say what is going to survive and what is going to merge. Merge means it's modifiable. So generally it's always going to be any child related issue. So custody, parenting schedule, child support, stuff of that nature is always going to be modifiable. Then there's the other things, the health insurance, the life insurance, the alimony, the college. Those are the things that we can add in as a modifiable thing, and we can certainly address in a modification. So we're going to look at that. And again, when it's going to happen really is your guess as good as mine.
So we don't really know what is the average time it takes to get a modification? Does it depend on what the issue is? Are there some quickies out there?
There are some quickies. I mean, you can do a joint modification for child support, provided that it's going to be in accordance with the guidelines, and that would be both of you running the numbers. So when Sally gets emancipated and we just have the remaining 3 children, we're going to run the guidelines or whatever that guideline is, we're going to modify it. And we all agree on the numbers. Oh my God, 2 W and 2 employees, they run the numbers and it's clear as day. That's when you do a joint modification. Now, that's less than 1% of the cases that we're doing in modification world. So most of them are going to follow an 8-month track, which means from beginning to end, it should be concluded within 8 months. Does that mean it has to be? No. It really depends on the facts of the case. So again, a child support issue really should be that 8 months because it's just numbers. So maybe if you have a business or you have other things going on, you're not a W-2 employee, obviously that will have some impact. If you're talking about parenting schedules, that's another one that's a little bit of a gray area because maybe the child hasn't been bonding with this person or really something happened and they're really afraid to go there, and we want to do what's right for the child. So maybe that child needs more time to become acclimated and be more comfortable with that parent. So there are going to be times that it's going to extend beyond that. But again, the court's going to look at it and try to do it within that 8-month period.
So 8 months, a little less than the time it takes to have the child. So if you do have a problem and you need a modification, when do you typically file this?
You file it when there's a change in circumstance. So is there a material change in circumstances? Has something happened? And again, obviously the child support factor is going to be, is the child support guidelines no longer applicable? So if I ran the guidelines today and your W-2 employees, these are ones to look at, I run the formula and it was, $500 a week, but now the child support changed or your income changed, and now it's $600 a week. Whatever that magic number is, it's not 500, and I'm allowed to immediately go in and say it's not in accordance with the guidelines. So the child support number is probably the easiest one to deal with. The other ones are, again, what's going on? Is it something that's really a dire situation? Is it just, your ex kind of being a nuisance and you're just sitting there shaking your head going, what is wrong with you? Why aren't you being a good parent? Or is it to the point that you're actually putting your child in harm's way and mom or dad's going, nope, we need to get the court involved in this because otherwise we're going to have problems. Or worse yet, DCF is already involved in your life. And now DCF is going, if you don't file a modification, you're going to lose custody of your kid. So those are obviously the extreme circumstances. And there's, varying degrees in between. But sometimes it's, hey, look, the other parent moved to Florida. So we can't have a traditional schedule of every other weekend. Well, no matter what, that's not going to happen unless they're going to fly up here every week. So things like that are going to cause changes as well.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. You were saying before that the average time that it takes to get a modification is around 8 months. But if you do have one of these emergency situations, can they do like a temporary order type of a thing? Or um, what kind of steps do you take if there's an emergency?
Great question. And the simple answer is, you said the key words. It has to be an emergency. So it's not just, hey, I don't like the schedule and I need to change it. The court's not going to entertain it. The court needs something higher level. What is the emergency? DCF is in our lives. DCF is saying that this child should not be put in harm's way. That's saying that actions of mom or dad are putting this child in harm's way, or their significant other is now putting the child in harm's way. So something to that level. I lost my job and there's no way I can pay any of the child support. I'm not even collecting unemployment yet. Those are the emergencies. So it really has to rise to a level of an emergency. Is it an emergency because I want to claim the child on taxes? No. Is it an emergency to say, hey, I want to have them for summer vacation? No. What does the order say? So a lot of those things, people want to come in and go, I would just want to change it. And, if the two of you agree, great. But if you don't agree, the standard is an emergency. So you really have to be able to articulate to a judge, what is the emergency? And the emergency isn't, well, I want to go to Spain because my parents are there and I want to see them. No, your parents have been living in Spain for 5 years. Why is all of a sudden an emergency? So tell me something of significance.
Now, would you suggest that these modifications can be as rigorous as a divorce or a separation with children? I I have found that they are, and I appreciate having you, an attorney, help me out. Is that normal that you would need an attorney, do you think?
I would certainly recommend it. I mean, again, if it's something that's just child support guidelines, and again, you have two W-2 employees, the numbers are the numbers, right? They're very easy. But when you have somebody that has a business, or you have somebody that is working off the books, or you're dealing with any kind of parenting schedule and you're dealing with, inappropriateness of one parent or neglect of one parent, absolutely you need to have an attorney involved. Do you have to? No. Do I think that would be absolutely silly for you not to? Absolutely, because you're doing yourself a detriment. You're doing a detriment to your child in these circumstances.
I mean, this is really great information. Uh, Is there anything that we've missed about modifications that you would suggest? I mean, mistakes people make, ways that you can strategize to get the right outcome, anything else?
Well, strategy is always going to be document, document, document. In case you haven't heard me say it once or twice before, that's going to be your best friend because I'm going to ask you. And if you don't have the documents, then gather the intel before you file. And the reason why I say that is because once you file and you serve them, it's Pandora's box. And what I mean by that is, guess what? Then they get to come in and they get to do a counterclaim to your modification, and then they get to bring up issues that they want to change. So once you're doing what you're doing on your end, they're going to have a counter to that. And their counter might be, oh, yep, I need to have custody of the kids, and you're going, what just happened? I came in for child support and now they want custody. And so now you've got to address that. So you have to understand that when you're doing this, if you don't have the proper documentation, if you don't have the gumption, if you will, to be in it for the long haul, because they may very well throw you that curveball and say, I'm looking to decrease my child support or suspend my child support, or I'm looking to have joint custody of the children, or I'm looking to claim the tax exemption, all of those things. And you're going, oh my God, all I wanted to address was a change of a Wednesday parenting schedule. You have to look at it as big picture. How can this affect me and my child?
I mean, absolutely. And your clients are lucky to have you because you and your team work fantastically together to help with the strategies and to help to get positive outcomes. And so I'm just throwing that out there. Anyone that needs help, absolutely give Nicole's office a call. You won't be sorry. Just fantastic teamwork over there. Thank you so much for the information today, Nicole. As always, we really appreciate your coming on here and sharing your knowledge.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I hope everyone has a great weekend and thanks for watching.